We have one last emotion that we're going to look at this week. The other emotions that we looked at were more, I would say, primal, instinctive. They were emotions that we were born with, right? So no matter what culture or part of the world a person was born in, they came into the world equipped with what it takes to feel fear, anger, sadness, joy. Tonight, we're talking about shame, and the understanding that I have currently is shame is learned. It is an emotion that is given to us. So if we feel shame, it's because it has been put upon us by somebody who was a caregiver, um, important peers, um, in some cases, captors. But what it is, one way to explain it is to say that shame is the feeling of somebody else's negative belief or opinion coming from inside. Shame is the feeling of somebody else's negative belief or opinion about me coming from inside of me. So I didn't come into the world feeling shameful. That feeling is given to me by somebody else, and I learn to give it to myself. Why would I do that? So, with what I've read and learned, the purpose of shame is it's trying to keep us connected to our family or community by stuffing down a part of ourself. Shame it's a bad feeling. It is a really uncomfortable feeling. It is the feeling of, it's as if we are bad. That's the feeling. And the thing is, as children, we never actually were bad. Children are children. They live to explore, and they're constantly testing all the limits around them. And they'll hit a limit, and that's normal. That's a learning experience. That is something which, if we are taught in a way that just lets us know this is a limit and you don't cross this limit, then we know. But shame shows up when we're forced to believe that we are bad for doing something we've done. And that happens when we are rejected in some way for something that actually could be acceptable. I tried to think of a light example for this. The best I could come up with was this story from when I was 10 years old. I went to a community party for kids. So it was all a bunch of Chiam kids. And there was a game where you had to dance to the music. And then once the music stopped, you stopped. And if you kept on dancing and somebody noticed, then you were out. You were out of the game. And I danced and I stopped, and I eventually got kicked out of the game because I danced for a moment too long. So I went off to a different part of the hall. It was a community hall, and I danced by myself. I was really, really enjoying it. I was feeling it. And I have a memory. I was 10 years old, and I had my arms out, and I was just spinning, looking up at the ceiling. And it was a fun, rushing feeling to dance like that. But I heard laughing, and I realized that a bunch of my cousins and friends were laughing at me. And I didn't dance again for years. And it wasn't until yeah, I went to dances where there was like no lights on, like it was really low lighting, and I went, okay, this is safe enough, but I still kept my arms close in. So one of the takeaways that we can get from that is when we're feeling shame, shame is inhibiting or stopping us from feeling something of our core self. So for me in that situation, my core self wanted to dance. I was ashamed afterwards, because of the response that I got from my very important peer group, right? These are my cousins and my friends. They're my whole social life. So the shame I felt was telling me, hey, don't dance. You're going to be rejected. And when we're children, we need to be able to fit in. We need to be accepted by caregivers, peers, right? That's we need our caregivers to help us survive up to a certain age. But you get to a certain point where you could actually choose, right? I could dance now and it wouldn't be an issue of, am I going to be rejected and not have a peer group anymore? So I could just choose to dance anyway. That is easy to say. It's really easy to just say, oh, don't feel shameful. Shame is a complex feeling. As I understand it, shame is an indication of complex trauma. So it's not the kind of thing that is so easy to just say, oh, don't feel it, don't worry about it. So even with all the understanding that I have, I still don't feel uninhibited when I dance. When I dance, even sometimes by myself, embarrassment and shame can still show up. But now I can say to the shame, I can recognize it for one, and I can say, thank you for showing up for me. You tried really hard to make sure that I would fit in. I'm grown up now. I made it. I'm 41 years old, and it doesn't actually even matter if people do laugh at me if I dance. So I say to shame, you can keep hanging out with me, but I'm going to be in charge of what we do. And when shame shows up, I'm going to know that there's a part of my core self that wants to come out and be shown. And I can recognize shame is trying to stuff that down so I can fit in and stay connected to my community. And I am learning to be with all of that. That is a process. And I want to bring it back to the change triangle, which I really briefly touched on way back at the beginning. In the past, whenever anybody would say, hey, it's time to dance, do you want to dance? I would actually get angry. I would get angry and find excuses. I recognize now that's a defense, and that defense was covering up the shame that I felt for dancing, and that shame was actually blocking joy. Does that make sense? So if somebody said, hey, come dance, I would feel like frustrated and annoyed. But actually, if I knew how to spend a moment with that, I might have recognized that actually I was feeling shame. And after a bunch of work, I know now that that shame was was preventing me from feeling joy so that I could fit in with my community. Those are the main things that I wanted to put across. I feel like I covered the things that I wanted to get to. Leanne, was there anything glaringly obvious that you would add? And by the way, I'm still recording. If you want me to stop recording, let me know.
Well, that's totally fine. Well, just we kind of talked about this before, but just when you explained to me, because I actually struggled with the shame question. I struggled with what is shame really? Is it just saying I'm embarrassed? Like, I don't fully get it. Like, I don't know why my body, like why my part of me feels that way. And I don't and when you said it's part of complex trauma, and it is therefore complicated, it is complex, it is not easy to figure out. I just felt like it normalized my discomfort with that inhibitory emotion, if that's what it is, inhibitory emotion. um that's helpful to know this isn't an easy one. Like, it's not like, oh, I know what joy is. This one is tough, and to know where the origins sometimes come from before we even understand where it came from. I found that very interesting and helpful. Actually, I have a little bit more calm when I think about shame.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Leanne. I will stop the recording.